Get ready because we are in for a transformative start to the new year. Things might seem rather pleasant and calm as we transition out of 2023 and move into 2024. However, that's going to change dramatically as we move deeper and deeper into the first 3 months of the year. Pluto, which is the planet of transformation and intensity, is moving back into the sign of Aquarius in January, and it's going to be activated time and time again throughout the month of February by the inner planets, which makes this influence impossible for us to ignore. Pluto transitioning into a new sign wants to get us into alignment with what we truly and deeply desire at a core level in a new area of life. Whatever is not aligned with our deepest and truest needs and wants at that soul level is something that we are going to be pushing away, burning bridges with, purging, letting go of, and surrendering into the new year. Shortly after this energy starts to dissipate, we are moving right into a period of massive disruption and abrupt, quick change. This is because Mars, which is the planet of motivation, action, impulsivity, and willpower, is squaring Uranus, which is the planet of disruption, shock and awe, change, transformation, and just things that are just very out of the blue and outside of the norm. This is where we get to shake things up and move out of complacent, stagnant energies that are boring and dull and no longer serving us and keeping us stuck. And this is just the prelude, you guys, because as we move into the spring, things are getting even wilder with the eclipses and the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, but these are topics for another time. In this video, we're going to be covering the astrology for the entire winter in the Northern Hemisphere, or the summer if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, from the solstice on December 21st of 2023 all the way through until the equinox on March 19th of 2024. So this is very different than what I normally do, and so I want to give you kind of an overview of what you can expect in this video here, so stick with me. So first and foremost, we're going to start with my general overview, but this is going to be an extended general overview. So this is going to be about 30 to 40 minutes long. I have a really neat presentation for you guys, and this is just intended to serve as a really good roadmap for the most important energies for this entire 3-month period. So please don't skip this. And this is also going to provide an important context for the energy we'll be discussing when we get into the forecast for all 12 signs. Speaking of which, when we do get into the forecast for all 12 signs, make sure you listen to your rising sign, your sun sign, and your moon sign to get a more holistic overview of the energy for the next 3 months ahead. Your rising sign will be the most predominant energy. Your sun sign is secondary. And your moon sign is important to listen to as well, although this energy will be more internalized and subjective. Finally, at the end of this video, we're going to be covering a 5-minute crash course in what's going to be coming up in the spring forecast, which includes those eclipses and that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. So you're definitely going to want to stick around until the end if you're interested in that. And of course, make sure you like this video, hit that subscribe button, share this with your friends if you feel like they can benefit from what we're going to be discussing today, and comment below and let me know if you like this new format, because that's going to really help me gauge if I'm going to keep doing videos like this. And finally, one last thing, I have a free present, a gift for you for the holidays. My Beginner's Astrology Bootcamp is back. And so if you're somebody who wants to understand astrology better for the new year, maybe your New Year's resolution is to actually learn astrology, this bootcamp is for you. Over the course of 22 days, we're going to be covering all of the zodiac signs and astrological planets, and we even have a bonus that's going to cover the houses, so you can get everything you need to get started with understanding your birth chart, or just understanding what I'm talking about in these videos even better. And especially if you're somebody who wants to go on and learn astrology, this is going to give you really solid foundations. You're going to have access for the entire month of January, but you have to enroll now if you want to save your seat. Enrollment closes on January 1st, so the link is down in the description below. In addition to all of these lessons, you get access to a free student community where you can ask questions and get answers from me and from our expert astrology teaching assistants from the Cosmic Academy of Astrology. This student community is also where you can make connections with like-minded astrology lovers just like you, so you can learn and grow together. And finally, for those of you who are really interested in learning astrology in the new year and you go through the bootcamp and you love it and you want to learn more, we're going to be opening enrollment for the Cosmic Academy of Astrology at the very end of the bootcamp in January at a heavily discounted rate exclusively for our bootcamp students. So if that sounds exciting to you, you're definitely going to want to jump in on the bootcamp. And so enrollment is down in the description below. And so without further ado, let's jump into this forecast, you guys. I am super excited with this. Here we go. So we're going to start with the first thing first here, which is the winter solstice. And so the winter solstice, I like to kind of explain it as being almost like the new moon of the solar year. This is the time when the sun resets. It hits that reset button. It's a time of major endings and new beginnings. It's sort of like the astronomical new year, while the astrological new year is really when we have the sun shifting into Aries, which happens at the vernal equinox in the northern hemisphere, which will be on March 19th of 2024. So we'll talk about that in the next forecast. But this is really it's like the dark phase of the solar cycle in the northern hemisphere, because it's the time when the days are the shortest and the darkest. And so this is also going to be the longest and brightest day of the entire, solar year for people who are in the southern hemisphere. And so that's a more active time if that's you. But for the rest of us, this is a time for introspection and reflection on what's gone on for the entire solar cycle that's just passed and what's coming up for, the year ahead. So it's about planning, plotting, scheming, seeding those intentions, visualizing what you want, creating that vision board, setting your new year's intentions. But it's not necessarily about taking action and jumping all in. That's more, the energy of the vernal equinox. And so, because this is an energy that is kind of important. So basically, with the solstices and equinoxes, the entire tropical zodiac is based off of those solar alignments. And so the solstices and equinoxes are something that they're both super important, and they don't get a lot of attention, I would say, in astrology, but they are highly important. And so the configuration that the sun is making, because this is all about the sun, the configuration that the sun is making in aspect to other planets and, what they're all doing, that shows important information about the entire season ahead. And in this case, it's going to be the winter season in the northern hemisphere and the summer season in the southern hemisphere. And so for the winter solstice, we have a couple of different things going on here. So I really like this. The way that we're kind of ushering out the end of the year, at least until the holidays, is pretty nice. So we have Mercury here in retrograde in a conjunction with the sun. It's actually going Cazimi the very next day on the 22nd. And so mark your calendars for that, because that's going to be a really potent time of gathering information and insight. That's going to be a time when we're going to get downloads, we're going to get information, we're going to get inspiration about the plans that we really need to move forward with, the things that we really need to accomplish and achieve or do or let go of even in the year ahead. That's all going to be coming up into the forefront of our consciousness because of that Mercury retrograde energy, and because it's so close to the energy of the equinox, the solstice. And I actually did a forecast about Mercury in retrograde and the different phases of this upcoming Mercury retrograde. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. You can find that, in last week's video. But this is really a period of just really thinking bigger. So you can see here that we have the Sun conjunct Mercury in a really beautiful trine with Jupiter, which is a very expansive, very optimistic energy. It's all about taking advantage of opportunities and looking at the bigger picture and looking at how we can take that bigger picture and turn it into something very practical, grounded, and real, because this is in the earth signs. We have the sun in the sign of Capricorn, and we have Jupiter in, the fixed earth sign of Taurus, which is the earthiest of all the earth signs. And the moon is there as well. And so at the exact moment of the solstice, we actually have a perfect trine between the sun and moon. or near perfect trine between the sun and moon. It's same by degree. And so this is a really beautiful, really powerful period for putting things out there, and thinking things through when it comes to that year ahead energy. And it's a beautiful indicator of, you know, a nice time ahead, even with some of the turbulence and difficulty that's going to be coming up into the new year, into the start of the new year. Not all difficulty, by the way. So some of this stuff, as you'll see as we go through this presentation, some of this stuff is going to be good for some people, difficult for others. Some of it's going to just be turbulent all around. A lot of the Pluto energy is going to be very, very empowering. So it's a mixed bag that we're coming into at the start of this year. But this is a beautiful, beautiful energy for the solstice. I love it. And that Saturnian component. So we have Saturn in the sign of Pisces. Even though Saturn is in a water sign, it's in a mutable sign, it's in a very malleable sign. It does help to solidify things even with that component, especially because the rest of this energy is so grounded. So this is about taking our biggest dreams and figuring out ways, like plotting, planning, and scheming, and figuring out ways to translate that into something tangible, physical, and real. This could be about making big, tangible financial changes or material changes with that Jupiter in the sign of Taurus. And that's going to actually be a big theme for the entire year ahead with that Jupiter conjunction to Uranus. And so you do want to kind of keep that in mind as well as we, move into the year ahead. Okay, and so moving on from the solstice, the next big thing that's happening at the beginning of this period here, right after the solstice, is that Jupiter is stationing to move direct. Planetary stations are sort of like a big cosmic timeout. And so this is a time when the planet's energies become stronger and just way more difficult to ignore because the planet is just sitting there. It's usually much closer to the Earth. It's brighter in the sky. It's just amplified in its influence and it's not moving. And so usually what this means is that it's highlighting something very specific. It's highlighting this one big thing that maybe you missed over during that reflectionary period during the Jupiter retrograde, which is more about internal growth and acquiring wisdom, and also downsizing where you might have expanded or taken advantage of too many opportunities and overdone it in some area. This is going to be like a highlight that's going to show you where there's some work that you didn't do and you need to put in the effort, you need to make it happen, and then you need to take that internal growth, that internal wisdom, and translate that into an external opportunity of some kind. Or if you have put in the work and this is aligned really, really nicely in your chart, then this could be a time where you reap the benefits and rewards of that through an external opportunity coming in from an outside source. And so I love this energy. Jupiter, of course, is the great benefic. So this is going to be a more expansive, optimistic, beneficial influence. And it's going to be predominant, you guys, not just on the day of Jupiter stationing on the 30th, but really like a week before, a week after, it's going to feel more Jupiter-y, which is good because if you watched my forecast for the Mercury retrograde, this is a period where at the end of the year, start of next year, we have some interesting stuff going on. It's a little harsh with the Mercury conjunction to Mars and square to Neptune. And so this kind of like softens the energy a little bit. I like this. Okay, and so Jupiter is going to be stationing direct, still in a really nice, beautiful trine with the sun. It's coming out, so it's separating. So it's kind of like there's an opportunity that already has been set in motion, or that is kind of like leaving or moving on. That could be part of this energy too. But really this is about kind of taking a step back and looking at this period of reflection that we've gone through and what we can do with that experience, with that wisdom, with that knowledge, that new understanding that we have, and how we can translate that into something very physical, tangible, and real. Again, with Jupiter and Taurus, this is about material growth. This is about things that are that you can touch, taste, feel, the sensory experience, right? This is not about necessarily, growing something like an idea, right? This is more growing something that's physical, like your bank account. And this is a really, important, potent time when that can occur. It's also highlighting that Jupiter sextile to Saturn, which isn't going to come super like perfectly exact this year, or at this time of year. It already came super exact, but it is an energy that is present. And so it's about taking, again, it's about taking your ideas and turning it into something very grounded and very real. And this is a time where, especially if you have a lot of earth energy, so if you have a lot of energy, especially at the beginning degrees of Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn, you can come into some really powerful opportunities that come in from like external sources, especially shortly after Mercury or Jupiter stations, and it actually starts to move direct. And so I really love this energy, very beautiful, very gentle. It's kind of offsetting the energy that you can see in this chart here with Mercury conjunct Mars squaring Neptune. That's super, super tight on this day. So don't just think that this is going to be like, you know, all lollipops, roses, and rainbows. Like this is going to be a tough time mentally, psychologically, and interpersonally. There's going to be some difficulties there. There's going to be some confusion and miscommunication. We talked about that in the Mercury retrograde forecast. But there's also this really powerful energy of opportunity. So it's sort of offsetting that in a lot of ways. And yeah, it's like a mixed energy at the end of this year. There's this beautiful, beautiful, benefic, expansive influence that's really, really strong. And then there's all sorts of like miscommunications and just weirdness in our interactions and just in our minds too. Like there could be like a lot of anxiety, a lot of thinking and overthinking things, that type of thing, especially with that Mercury-Mars conjunction with Mercury being in retrograde like that. The big energy, you guys, for this period is going to be Pluto re-entering the sign of Aquarius. This happens on January 20th of 2024. And so we already saw a taste of this energy back at the start, or actually the middle of this previous year. And so if we look at the time periods here, from March 23rd through June 11th of 2023, we actually got that first taste of Pluto in Aquarius. So thinking back to that time period and what that represented for you, what showed up for you in your life, the deeper questions and the deeper search for meaning, and what that looked like in your life, the transformative energies that came up for you maybe. There could have been, you know, some psychological or emotional intensity that triggered some need for change or for some soul searching. That could have come up, especially if you have early degree fixed sign energy. And so think back to that time period, because that was that first little taste. Not everyone is going to have had like a big, massive experience. Pluto takes a very long time to transit each sign. It's going to be many years before all of us get hit by it, but we are all still influenced by it, at least somewhat. So thinking about that is going to be very helpful to understanding what's to come during this period ahead. Okay, and so when Pluto, kind of backtracking here and looking at this sort of more on the macro level, the way that this impacts the world at large, and kind of the general themes that we'll be experiencing as a collective, Pluto represents major shifts in society and the consciousness of our society. And so every time Pluto enters into a new zodiac sign, that basically represents a major shift in societal themes, societal focus. It also represents our collective willpower and where and how it's directed. And so what is the collective willpower going to be focusing on manifesting or breaking down? That's another thing. It's a building up and a laser focused energy of manifestation, but it's also an energy of breakdowns. And so we'll talk about that in just a second. But the sign placement of Pluto is primarily considered to be a generational influence. And so what this means is that it impacts people on a broader scale, longer term, as opposed to looking at Pluto in the sign of Aquarius on an individual level, although it will impact us individually. And we'll talk about that, of course, when we get into the forecast of all 12 signs. But that Aquarian component is considered to be a more generational theme, a more generational influence. And so the period between 2023 and 2024 represents a major societal shift and a transition from looking at power and control issues involving corporations, governments, and hierarchy. Think about especially the end of that Pluto and Capricorn period, and that's what we're still in right now and kind of transitioning in and out of. It was very much about really centralizing and focusing power and control. We saw some very odd things, the likes of which we've never seen before. Doubling down on controlling our every single everyday lives and things of that nature. I won't get into it in too much detail here. You guys know what I'm talking about. But we're shifting that energy. We're shifting that focus. When we're looking at Pluto, Pluto represents power and control. It represents psychological and psychic manipulation. It represents this energy, again, of that collective shift in power and control. And so we're shifting from this period of like hierarchy to this period of decentralization, theoretically. Hopefully, there's something along those lines that's going to be positive. We'll see. But this is also going to show us power and control issues around technological advancements. So think about, what's been coming up since we started getting into that ingress of Pluto in Capricorn starting to move into Aquarius at the end of 2022 and start of 2023. And then into 2023, when we really got into it, like we saw AI, artwork coming up at the very end of that Pluto in Capricorn period and just taking over the internet for a little while. And then Chat GPT and AI. That's like all anybody was talking about. And still, it's big, but it was like exploding. And it was in everyone's like news, everyone's social media. And so AI technology is something that I think is going to be a big central theme, and just really weird developments in technology, you guys. The technological advancements that we will see during the period that Pluto is transiting Capricorn are things that we can't even fathom or like comprehend right now. And so in a very short period of time, the entire world is going to look very different because of technology, and also because of the role that technology is going to have with that integration of that power and control. And so we're going to be moving from, this, more corporate hierarchy into more of a technocracy. So we're moving from a plutocracy into a platonic technocracy, I guess it should be called, like a corporate technocracy. So, it's not great. It's not ideal, right? That is what it looks like it's going to be moving into it. That is what it looks like this could bring about for us on a grander scale. However, this could show really major advancements in technology that help us in a lot of ways. And this is an energy. So when we think about Pluto or Capricorn's all about centralization and centralizing power. It's like this top-down power dynamic. When we're looking at Aquarius, I'm getting jumbled here. When we're looking at Aquarius is exactly the opposite. Aquarius is about bringing power back into the hands of the people. It's about decentralizing and breaking up these massive, corporate and governmental hierarchies and structures. And so this is a period that's ripe for revolution and decentralization. However, it's not going to come easily. There is going to be this massive vying for power and a doubling down, especially when it comes to using technology as a means for power and control. And so there's a mixed bag going on here, but we could see really beautiful advancements that change humanity for the better when it comes to technology as well. We will see both sides of the spectrum. Pluto is very polarizing. It has two very distinct sides to it. It has the dark and it has the light, and we're going to see both of those come out of this. So collective Pluto and Aquarius themes are personal power and autonomy. So Aquarius is it's weird because it's very concerned about what's good for the group, but it also wants to maintain a certain level of personal independence and sovereignty. And so we're going to see a lot of that going on. Societal independence and revolution, that's more of an Aquarian thing. So it's looking at independence when it comes to groups and societies, as opposed to, looking more at like individual freedom and sovereignty, although that probably will be kind of a theme. But Aquarius tends to be, it's very enigmatic. It's collectivist, but also independent and sovereign at the same time. We could also see, again, like those revolutionary movements toward decentralization that come out of probably this consolidation of power and control that we've been seeing during Pluto in Capricorn, and maybe even, a pushback to the technocratic centralization of power and control that we're probably going to start seeing as well, although it's harder to centralize, on this technology front. So I think this will be interesting. We're going to see, like I said, major technological advancements and exposing the collective shadow of Aquarian entities. This is a big one and a really important one. So Aquarian entities are things like, obviously the industrial and technocratic institutions, and it has to do with technology. It also has to do with science. And so we could see the shadow side of the current scientific method, or the scientific dogma that has been really doubled down on over the past few years. We could see the shadow side of collectivist types of movements and revolutions. We could see the shadow side even of decentralization. Definitely, I would say we'll see the shadow side of revolution, and I think we're already probably seeing a little bit of that here and there. And so it's not just, the good. Every single thing, whether you like the thing or not, has difficulties attached to it. It has this shadow energy attached to it. And so we're going to start seeing a lot of that being brought to light when it comes to anything and everything that's ruled or connected to the sign of Aquarius. In terms of the personal impact of Pluto and Aquarius, this is going to bring about a period of psychological and emotional intensity that stems from things going on the inside. So part of this is really looking at our psychological attachments to things. We're going to be looking at different attachments than what we were looking at with Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. And this is a powerful energy. It can change your life in really intense ways. Pluto works in extremes. And so when you get these massive changes, they are big. Like it's like a 180. Like everything is different as a result of when Pluto comes in and influences you and swoops in and completely deconstructs something and reconstructs something in your life. And that can cause a lot of psychological and emotional intensity. The end result is typically empowerment, because we've shed our old skin. We've let go of the things that are no longer serving us, or that are just not truly aligned with our deepest desires, like I mentioned at the start of this video. And so we shed a lot of dead weight. We purge, we detox physically, psychologically, and emotionally, and we come out of it lighter and more empowered, but also not just because we're shedding all this stuff that we don't need anymore. It's also because we've gone through, some stuff. It can be like a dark night of the soul for a lot of people with Pluto transits, especially if they're like conjunctions, oppositions, or squares. So if you have a lot of fixed energy again, so that's Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius, at some point during Pluto and Aquarius, you're going to be feeling that. And that's going to come get you. So be prepared, be forewarned, but just know that whatever you're going through, you're purging and you're moving into something new because you need it, because you need to align yourself with what your soul came here to do, with your deepest and truest desires. And the themes of this will depend on where it's at in your chart. And of course, we'll talk about this in the forecast for all 12 signs. All right. And so just to give you a little rundown of what to expect with Pluto re-entering Aquarius. So it moves back into Aquarius on January 20th of 2024. And literally right before it does that, we have this period where the sun conjuncts Pluto at 29 degrees, 59 minutes. This is wild because this is like really highlighting something that we need to let go of. It's quick. It's not going to be like drawn out, but it's like illuminating something that we have kept hidden, or that we've been kept in the dark about, that we just can't do this anymore. It needs to unravel. It needs to be done with. It's been heavy and toxic, and maybe we didn't realize it was weighing on our soul. And this is going to be an influence that will impact everyone, but some more than others. And so you want to just make note of this time period, because there's something that might go away, and it's going to be a good thing. It's going to be something that you didn't realize, and all of a sudden it's there, it's illuminated, and we're done, we're moving on. And then Pluto enters into the sign of Aquarius, where it's going to stay until September 1st of 2024. That's when it'll dip back into Capricorn one final time before it moves into Aquarius once and for all in 2025. And so we have a longer period with Pluto and Aquarius than what we got last year. Last year it was about 2 months. This year it's about 9 months. And so we're going to really see and really feel in our own lives what this experience is going to bring for us individually. And February in particular is a month of Pluto activations. And we're going to talk about this really heavily in the all signs forecast, because this is like a major, major activation period. We have Mercury conjunct Pluto, Mars, which is a very intense energy, conjunct Pluto, and then Venus conjunct Pluto. There is a stellium forming in Aquarius, and it's all centered around Pluto. We're not going to be able to ignore Pluto. This is a time where we need to go deep. Surface level conversations and communications just won't cut it. Surface level answers, surface level solutions are not going to be solutions. We want to dig deep. We want to get to like that, core toxic thing and rip it out, and then replace it with something that is absolutely perfect. And we're going to be obsessing over the things that we need to change, to focus on, to transform, to alchemize in our lives. And Mars conjunct Pluto, that's just intense. Mars and Pluto do tend to play well together. So Pluto is the modern ruler of the sign of Scorpio, and Mars is the traditional ruler. Mars is the planet of physical action and willpower, so actually doing things actively out in the world. Whereas Pluto is more our psychic energy and our psychic willpower and our collective willpower as a group and as a whole. And so when you combine these two energies, you can be an unstoppable force to be reckoned with. Anything and anything that you want to achieve, nobody's going to get in your way. Nobody's going to stop you. You're going to be able to draw it in like a magnet. And anything that is no longer serving you, you're going to cut it. And that is that energy of Mars being the planet of separation. It is the separating principle. And with that, things are going to happen and speed up very quickly in our lives, like where we're going to be dealing with a lot, I would say emotionally and psychologically, of course, but physically, this is a period of really intensive and a lot faster when it comes to the transformation that Pluto is bringing about. Venus will conjunct Pluto as well, and that kind of offsets some of that Mars energy a little bit. It's more of a balanced and harmonious component. However, with Venus conjunct Pluto, it can bring obsessiveness, jealousy, possessiveness on a material level, but also on an interpersonal level. And for some people, this is going to be stronger than for others. And so, of course, we'll talk about that when we get into the forecast for all 12 signs as well. Okay. So this is that Pluto and Aquarius chart that I was talking about that we're going to be diving into in the all signs forecast. But I wanted to give you a little preview of this because it's not just that we have Mars, Pluto, and Mercury and the Sun and Venus in the sign of Aquarius, like bunching up together, creating, it's going to feel so powerful, you guys. And again, so empowering if you're somebody who gets hit nicely with this. So if you have like a lot of Gemini or a lot of Libra energy, I like this for you guys. If you have a lot of fixed energy, I still like this, but it's like you're going to be put through the ringer in order to get to that place of empowerment. But this is also an energy of overdoing something or having way over the top expectations. This is very fixed energy, and it's very obsessive energy, and it's overblown obsessive energy because we have this in square with Jupiter. Jupiter is the great benefic. It protects against the worst case scenario and the worst actual like objective outcomes. However, it does tend to overdo things. And whenever you see Jupiter in square with Mars, you know people are going to be overreacting to things. Like everything is over the top, everything is drama. And with Pluto in the mix, we're overly obsessing about something. And again, we'll talk about what that means in your chart in just a minute here. The other thing I want to mention is that Mercury will be Cazimi in its superior conjunction on February 28th of 2024. This is powerful. So Mercury moves out of the sign of Aquarius, where it's causing a ruckus and it's making our brains obsess about things really intensely. If you're somebody who's prone to anxiety or just kind of overkill when it comes to your thoughts, this is not, the best energy for that. This is an energy of mental burnout. But then we quickly shift into an energy of like a mental vacation almost, because we have this with Saturn in the mix. And so this is a very interesting Mercury Cazimi, which is why I wanted to point this out. Not only is this Mercury direct, superior conjunction, but it's Mercury in a conjunction with the Sun exact, while the Sun is in a very exact conjunction with Saturn. Saturn in the sign of Pisces. This is all about boundaries. This is about breaking down boundaries that need to be dissolved. This is about creating boundaries that need to be created where it's been very, very lax. This is about taking the intangible, that Piscean imagination, that Piscean spirituality, that Piscean interconnectedness, and turning it into something practical, tangible, and real. And our brains are going to be online for it. We're going to be ready for it mentally. Whatever this means in your life is going to depend on where this is, of course, in your birth chart. But this is really about taking the formless and giving it form. And we're going to have so many ideas, so many messages, so many downloads about this coming in. It's going to be absolutely incredible. I love this as a compassionate energy for doing something real when it comes to helping other people. So it's not just, oh, I want to help people, la la la. Sending good vibes. This is like, I want to help this, group of people here, or this person, or these animals, or whatever. And I'm going to create a plan, and I'm actually going to work really hard and do the thing. That's what this energy is really all about. And I love that, because I think we need more of that, especially in this day and age. All right, so before we get into the big energy of Mars squaring Uranus, we have to talk about Jupiter conjunct Uranus. It's not exact yet. We're going to get deeper into this in its own video that I should be releasing in January of 2024. And of course, this will be a main player in our spring overview, our spring forecast. So, stay tuned for that. But this Jupiter conjunction to Uranus is going to be activated by the Mars square to Uranus. It's squaring Jupiter first, and they're very close in alignment. And so it's not just Uranus. It is a Jupiter-Uranus alignment that's being activated here. And this is an energy, you guys, that we've been experiencing since really like May of 2023. When Jupiter first moved into the sign of Taurus. And so this is something that's been ongoing, and the energy's been slowly building, and it comes and hits this peak in April, but that doesn't mean that we only feel it in April. We're feeling it right now as you're watching this, and we're especially feeling it after Jupiter stations to go direct on December 30th and into, this new year and this entire period that we're talking about here in this forecast. And so Jupiter-Uranus conjunctions create powerful periods of innovation, awakening, revolution. This is where we change things in unexpected, unique, eccentric, just wild ways that we never could have imagined prior to this time. And we change them for the better in our own lives and on a collective level. We could see a lot of volatility on a physical level here, but ultimately with Jupiter in the mix, it's kind of like an expansion that, or like a volatility that leads to a positive expansion or a positive outcome later on down the line when it's all said and done. And even in the midst of it, it's kind of like everything's chaos and everything's shaken up and everything's disrupted, but it feels kind of good. It's not going to feel as good in March. I'm going to tell you that right now. But, when it's uninhibited and it's Jupiter with Uranus, it does feel kind of good. It's like freedom. Finally, I can do what I want to do when I want to do it. I can, break away from this stagnant, still energy. I'm doing it now. And it's exciting and empowering, and it's good, right? But, in March, it's not going to feel that way. So that's kind of what we're going to get into here. But mostly, what we can expect as a whole when this is all done with and Jupiter has moved on and it's not happening anymore is positive, tangible, very, Taurus types of changes to occur during this conjunction. Taurus rules things like food, money, material possessions, sensory pleasures of all kinds. And so it's like pleasures of the body. You can take that to mean what you want. It means lots of things. And so this is an expansion on that, and it's doing it in a very unusual way that we've never tried before, that we've never experienced before, collectively or individually. We could see changes, involving the food supply and food production collectively, kind of on a broader scale. We can see a lot of economic changes happening around these time periods. But, with the major activations that we've been experiencing with Mars with this, we've really seen abrupt over-the-top chaos ensue collectively, and even a lot in individual people's lives. I know my clients, especially that November period where we had Mars opposing Uranus, were just going through some stuff when they were being hit very directly by it. And so that could be the case for you as well. It just depends on how it's hitting you. Again, we're going to talk about that, of course. All right. So just a little, preview of the Jupiter conjunction to Uranus that we're going to be experiencing here in April. I just wanted to kind of pull up the chart here. I'm not going to get into this super in depth right now because this will be in its own video, but it actually looks pretty good. So I'm not scared about April. I'm scared about, and I'm not scared about anything. I shouldn't say I'm scared. Don't be scared. This is, stuff like this happens constantly. The astrology is always changing and shifting. We're always changing and shifting. The only constant in life is change, and Uranus is to blame for that. And so we're gonna be dealing with that a little bit more. But what might be more trying and difficult and disruptive in a way that feels crunchy and chaotic and disturbing in a lot of ways is going to be this March energy that leads up to this. So it's almost like abruptly we have to change something really quickly and do it in a big way, and it's not going to be what we think it is, and the outcome's not going to be what we think it is. But if we do it and we do it right and we pivot and we don't resist, then when we come into this period in April, blessings, gifts, freedom, opportunity that is just very unusual that we wouldn't normally take advantage of, but we want to, right? We want to this time. All right, so that leads me to the whole reason I was talking about that. Mars square to Uranus. And so Mars will square Uranus on March 9th of 2024. It's going to first off hit Jupiter. And so it squares Jupiter exact on February 27th. And so this entire period here from like mid-February really until, we have this Uranus square, especially that in-between zone, there's not going to be like a settled energy. It's very unsettled. It's going to be very hard to just kind of keep things on track and keep going with the status quo in a lot of different ways and in a lot of different areas. And there could be stuff going on kind of in the world at large, especially, coming into eclipse season here. This is a dicey energy into March and at the start of April. I would say, with what's happening in the world right now, the things that were initiated globally in October and November of this year are going to escalate, in a bigger way in March and April of 2024. And so I'll just kind of leave it at that for right now. But, thinking back to mid-November, especially, there might have been themes and experiences of abrupt, dramatic changes that came about in shocking and unexpected ways on a personal level. Thinking about that is going to help you to understand what's coming up, what themes are coming back around. It's almost like we changed something and disrupted our lives, and the results of that are causing an even greater disruption in March that we have to deal with. And it's more about taking quick, decisive, direct action to correct something and to correct it for the better, but not overcorrecting and overdoing it. There needs to be a happy medium here, because that Jupiter energy is going to have us kind of, everything is overkill, right? That's that Jupiter. So now is a time to make big adjustments and make them quickly. You can see in this chart here that Mars in that square with Uranus up in this chart, it's in the 10th house. It's not going to necessarily be in your 10th house unless you're a Leo rising, but it's in the 10th house, so you can see it on my screen. This Jupiter conjunction to Uranus is heavily, heavily activated. Luckily, we do also have Venus in the mix. That is an energy of rebalancing. So the two benefic influences are sort of, in a lot of ways, offsetting this energy, and there is some mutual reception here with Jupiter and with Venus, and so that kind of lightens the load as well. So this isn't like dire worst case scenario energy, but it's not like light and fluffy. Like, we do have to branch out of our comfort zones in ways that we weren't anticipating having to and didn't really want to. It's like we're cozy here. Things were trucking along. We thought we made the changes, and now more, right? More change. And so that is the general overview. So let's get into the forecast for all 12 signs, beginning with Aries. For Aries and Aries rising, this winter solstice is bringing about an energy of new beginnings and opportunity and growth and good fortune and really great, bright, exciting new ideas in the areas of career and finance. This is a really great time for you to reflect on the past 12 months and what has gone really well for you financially in terms of purchases, budgeting, acquiring resources, all of these different things, investments, and what has not gone well for you. Where have you overspent or overextended yourself? Where have you broken your budget? Where have you missed opportunities for, financial advancement? Because this is really a potent period of introspection where you can look at what's gone well and continue that, but also look at where things have not gone so well and where you maybe need to change things when it comes to the way that you deal with your financial situation. So that way you can take advantage of even greater opportunities for financial growth and financial change into the new year. The Pluto energy that's coming into the mix is in your 11th house, which is the house of friends, social networks, and people that you surround yourself with by choice. And this is kind of an intense energy, but I would say more so in a good way than in a bad way. So when Pluto transits the 11th house, it requires you to really get clear on what you truly need, want, and desire when it comes to your friendships, when it comes to your social connections. You're not going to be able to deal with surface level friendships anymore. This is where you're going to purge anything that is not true, that is not loyal, that is not deep when it comes to your connections with other people. And there could be like this need to really purge or really amp things up when it comes to kind of discerning and kind of separating your fair weather friends from the people that you have this really deep soul level connection with. You want deep psychological and emotional intimacy in all of your connections right now, especially your friendships, but really in all of your close personal relationships. And if you're not getting that, it's going to be very apparent in February. The messages coming in, the conversations that you're having, the circumstances that arise will let you know who's who's truly there for you, who's loyal, who's going to be trustworthy now and into the future, and where you might need to shift things or shake things up a little bit, or maybe purge and let go of certain connections with people that are no longer serving you. This is a great time also to deepen intimacy and trust in your one-on-one relationships, and especially in romantic partnership. And this could be a time too where a friendship turns into something deeper, more intimate, and even maybe a really close, really solid romantic partnership as well. I actually really love this energy for really connecting with your partner, both like mentally, psychologically, emotionally, but also physically, especially into February because of that Mars component. You're going to be, sharing a lot of yourself with your partner if you are somebody who's in partnership in ways that you're not used to. And it could feel kind of scary, but it's also going to feel really beautiful and really empowering. And so I love, love, love this energy for Aries in particular with what Pluto's doing. When it comes to the Mars-Uranus square, this is where things maybe get a little dicey. So I talked about, really setting some solid intentions and sorting things out when it comes to your financial situation around the time of the solstice. This is key to navigating what's coming up, especially in March and really into April when we have that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction coming exact. But in March, something might come up very abruptly that's very shocking, very disruptive, that changes the way that you deal with your money. And it could be that there's a big purchase that you feel like all of a sudden, I have to buy this, or I have to do this, I have to move on it now. And maybe you do, maybe you don't. There is the potential here to overreact and overextend yourself financially. However, there is also a need to take action on something. You just want to make sure that you're being kind of balanced about it and that you're not overdoing it or getting overexcited or overenthusiastic or having really elevated expectations for the outcome, because the outcome is not going to be exactly what you think it's going to be. This is where, actions involving your money have unintended consequences, and actions involving your friendships and your relationships, those also have unintended and unanticipated consequences. There could be arguments, disputes, disagreements, or separations that occur, related to a financial situation with your friendships and your group associations in some way. And so this is kind of a time where money is going to be on your mind. There's a lot of opportunity for growth. If you jump in at the right thing at the right time and you don't go in too far or too hard or too impulsively, then this could create really incredible abundance through just generating the right financial changes that you need to make. And it's going to be something weird that you never would think about doing prior to this moment. And so just kind of keep that in mind as you're thinking about it and as this energy arises. If it's something that's tried and true, it's probably not the right thing. The thing you need to do is the thing that's the least expected, that other people expect the least from you, and that you would expect yourself to do like the least, and something that's kind of weird and wild and that you've never contemplated or maybe even heard about prior to this time period. That would be the best way to deal with your financial situation, the best type of investments, the best types of purchases. But again, there could be some disputes around money, so just be cautious about that. And then for Taurus and for Taurus rising. So for Taurus, the energy of this solstice is super, super beautiful for you in particular, because we have the sun, which is obviously the focal point of the winter solstice, in a conjunction with Mercury in the sign of Capricorn in your 9th house, which is the house of travel, opportunity. It's the house of higher wisdom, higher perspectives. But what's really important about this is the way that it's trining your ascendant sun or moon and creating positive opportunity and a lot of good fortune for you moving forward. This is the time where you can see things from a broader scale perspective, where you can kind of take yourself out of the nitty-gritty of all of the chaos and change that's been shifting in your life, especially over the course course of the last couple of years. And you can really see like where things are headed. You can see the bigger picture. You might get downloads and insights and messages that come through, even like actual literal messages where you learn something new, especially the day after the solstice when we have Mercury Cazimi in the sign of Capricorn. This is beautiful, beautiful energy. This is where the opportunities that come to you over the course of the next 12 months are resulting from what you've created, what you do. The opportunities that you create for yourself are going to be providing the most beneficial changes in all areas of your life moving forward. So this is a time to reflect on what you've personally done, the way that you've personally grown over the last year, where you've fallen short, and what you need to do moving forward. The energy of the Pluto shift into the sign of Aquarius is happening in your 10th house, which is the house of career and public reputation. It's also the house of the legacy that you leave behind even after your working years. It's what you put out there for public consumption, for the world to see, or for the world to utilize in some way. And this is going to be a time where if you are somebody who's working, things are going to get a little tricky because you're not going to be able to do work or even be in any sort of career path that's not deeply aligned with what you desire at a core level, your core truth, what you came here to do, what you came here to share with the world. And even if you're not working, that's going to be the case. And so I would say that a lot of Taurus rising people especially are going to be changing their career path into the new year and really into the next few years, but especially if you're a Taurus sun, moon, or rising at the early degrees, so between like 0 and 3 degrees, that's where this is going to be hitting. You're going to be feeling this the most, and your whole life is going to be transformed. So because you're transforming what you're doing out in the world, your career is changing, you're undergoing this process of aligning what you're doing out in the world with who you truly are deeply and what you truly desire and what you came here to share with the world. That's going to be an empowering experience. However, this is a tower moment. This is a moment where everything has to be torn down in order for you to build that up. And February is going to be the biggest hint of what needs to go and what needs to change and what you need to draw in. You're going to have some weirdness going on, potentially with work-related conflicts. You might be very focused on creating something or building something out in the world, like a business or a big project or something that you want to release out there. But there's going to be potentially some power struggles that will get in the way. And so I want you to be aware of that. Definitely there can be a tendency to overdo it and to obsess over what you're doing with your career right now to the point where it's going to cause you a lot of mental distress. Please, please don't do that. It does not have to happen all at once. It'll feel like it probably in February. Like, I need to do this now. I need to focus. I need to make this happen. If I don't, I'm just going to explode. But with Pluto, this takes a long time, and Pluto's going to be hovering around these same degrees well into 2025. And so at the very least, you have that amount of time, but Pluto transits take a really, really long time. You have years to really manifest this and really perfect it and fine tune it. So don't think that it has to happen all at once, and don't stress if it's not happening all at once. And definitely know that whatever's breaking away in terms of old career paths, old connections, old relationships, the old way that you used to exist out in the world, who you once were, that is breaking down because it needs to, because you need to make space, because you need to focus on what your soul came here to do. So this is going to be a major transformation on a lot of levels for Taurus and Taurus rising people. And as we come into this period toward the beginning, middle of March, where we have Mars squaring Uranus, squaring Jupiter, this is going to be where I think you're going to get a little frazzled, especially if you have kind of a middle degree Taurus sun, moon, or rising, because it's like you feel this pressure to change something and change it dramatically and do it quickly, do it all at once. And they're also think back to November of 2023. 2023 and what major changes, transformations, upheavals you were going through at that time. Particularly, it would have been potentially related to career, but also relationships and contracts and partnerships would have been up in the air as well. That energy is coming back around. It's kind of like whatever you did or changed at that time, you're having to deal with it in a new way, and now it's impacting the way that you kind of interact and interface with the world at large. It's impacting your career goals and plans and your biggest goals and plans for your life. It's impacting your reputation out in the world in some way, and it could be impacting the legacy that you leave behind, like after your working years, so the impact you make on the world. And so there's something going on here where there's friction and you have to pivot, you have to change, and this change has to come quickly. But once it does, you're going to see a lot of benefits and even more like change that'll come in April in particular, that's going to be really, really positive for you. So dealing with this moment of turbulence and super weird energy where you do have to pivot and change things really quickly, that leads to something, and it leads to something really quickly that, you know, you're going to be able to reap the rewards of and benefits of, you know, very soon after. So it's just kind of getting through that little period there. And then for Gemini and for Gemini rising. So for Gemini, this is happening in your, this will be happening in your 8th house, which is the house of death, rebirth, transformation. It's deep healing and deep psychological wounding. And so I love this energy for especially around the time of the solstice, going inward and doing some sort of, you know, deep inner healing, psychological healing, you know, doing some kind of journeying of some kind, doing the inner work. That's really what this is all about. And it'll come very easily to you. And you're going to have some epiphanies with that Mercury energy in particular that are going to take you into a whole new direction when it comes to your ability to overcome your anxiety, your fears, your traumas from the past. I really, really love this. Also, this is a time to have deep conversations about taboo topics with friends, you know, neighbors, relatives, people, you know, anyone. Because this is a really important time where important information and important messages can come through on that level as well. I love this energy for just taking a break and taking some time away, spending time in solitude, seclusion, isolation, just resting and recuperating and recovering. That's going to be so deeply regenerative for Geminis around the holiday season and especially around the time of the winter solstice, which the winter solstice is a really great time for that anyway, especially if you're in the northern hemisphere and it's actually the winter solstice for you. If it's the summer solstice, it's a little harder, but you should still be doing that if you are, you know, a Gemini and especially a Gemini rising. And then coming into this Pluto energy. So Pluto is moving into the sign of Aquarius. It's in your 9th house. This is actually beautiful, beautiful energy. This is where you are getting deeply aligned with your core values. This is about what you believe. This is about your religious ideologies. This is about your philosophical belief systems. This is about your ethical and moral value systems. This is a question of, you know, how you frame your reality through those perspectives. And that is transforming, that is changing. You are doubling down on, you know, some sort of ideology, some sort of faith, some sort of deep wisdom and information, and you're integrating that with who you are and the way that you show up in the world. This is about getting truly and deeply aligned with your integrity. This is so important and so beautiful and so empowering. Really empowering situations that I think could be very beneficial to you are going to be coming through connections with people in foreign countries, or, you know, travel in February in particular, or starting a new course. So if there's something that you've been wanting to learn about that is deeper when it comes to, you know, the knowledge that you're gaining. So something that's maybe more esoteric, something that's more meaningful. Maybe you're enrolling in the Cosmic Academy of Astrology or my Medical Astrology Foundations course in February. Or, maybe you're doing something else, like whatever it is that, you love and you're connecting with right now. This is about aligning with that and really transforming who you are through connecting with your integrity. There are some old ideologies, some old belief systems that you're going to be purging very quickly in February, because new information and new situations are going to come up that conflict with that, but it'll be very easy. It's very cut and dry. It's like with Pluto energy, you're either all in or you're not, and you're going to know when you're not. So you're going to be able to cut that away and cut those ties, very easily there. And then, for that energy of Mars squaring Uranus, not so bad for Gemini. So Mars in particular is still going to be trining your ascendant, sun, or moon. This is the need to take action on something that that's been kept hidden. So in addition to, this deep esoteric work, this like philosophical stuff, you might have been studying behind the scenes or investigating something behind the scenes in secret that is very unusual and, very outside of the box even for you. And so it could be that you've been studying very strange, obscure forms of spirituality or religion behind the scenes, behind closed doors, or maybe you've been having some very unusual, odd, experiences like within your consciousness or subconscious reality, or in your meditations or in your dreams, and you've been keeping it under wraps. But there's something here that you need to take action on out in the world, especially when it comes to like sharing this with other people, or going in again and like learning something new, or traveling to a foreign country, bringing this into the mix in your belief systems, your value systems, and then channeling that into the action that you take out in the world. And then for Cancer and for Cancer rising. So for Cancer, this is happening with the winter solstice in your 7th house, which is the house of relationships, especially all one-on-one connections, all one-on-one partnerships, close personal connections and friendships with other people. This is also contracts, agreements, negotiations, but really because this energy of the solstice is in such a nice trine with Jupiter and the moon, and later on there's going to be some Uranus energy in the mix, but this is in your 11th house of friendship. So this is all about reflecting on the connections that you've made over the course of the last 12 months, what went really well in your social interactions, what went really well in all of your groups and organizations that you're a part of, and what you maybe need to shift or change into the new year. This is a really great time for setting intentions involving relationships and friendships and connections in general. And so looking at kind of what you want in that area, like, do you want to socialize more? Do you want to join a group or organization of some kind? Do you want more expansive, more beautiful friendships? Do you want to travel with your friends? Do you want, something different in your partnership with your husband, your spouse, your wife, whoever, your partner? What does that look like? Set those intentions and start seeding that and visualizing that around the time of the winter solstice. Shortly after that, we have Pluto moving into the 8th house with Mars. It's kind of an interesting energy. And so this isn't as light and fluffy and nice as, the start of this solar cycle was. It's kind of intense. So this is where you're going to be dealing with transforming in the area of your deeply held fears. So there could be stuff that comes up around deeply held fears, anxieties, trauma, things that have come up from your past and earlier life experiences that you're still carrying with you right now. So basically, if you're living in fear of something that is not happening in the moment, if you're kind of allowing your past experiences, regardless of how traumatic they were and how important they were, if you're allowing those experiences to dictate and control the decisions that you're making in this moment, that's typically not a good thing. And so this is going to bring up a lot of that. This is also where there could be power struggles, difficulties, issues coming up pertaining to other people's money, debt, joint finances, taxes, inheritance, all of those things. And so if there is debt in your life, it's going to become very psychologically and emotionally trying for you. It's going to become very, very intense. This is something that you're going to need to work on, work through, transform, and purge, separate yourself from it. And in February, it's going to feel like you have to do it right now. You don't have to do it right now, but you have to get started right now, because this is going to be a long process. Pluto is going to be hovering around, where it's at right now through very, very well into 2025. And so you're not going to clear it all up right this second, even though there's a sense of urgency around it. But the urgency really is about getting started, like getting things going. There could also be power struggles and issues involving joint finances in marriage or in some sort of, financial arrangement in business or with investments or something along those lines. If that's the case, there is a need to change something, maybe to let go of something in that arena. And so just kind of keep that in mind as we come into especially February. And then moving into more like March, we have Mars squaring Jupiter at the end of February and then coming into this square with Uranus into March. This is whatever happened here where we have this intensity and this especially a psychological intensity or a fear, and it could be fear around money or resources. Whatever happened there, it's going to cause you a little bit just a couple weeks later to really need to pivot or change something in a big way. It could involve relying maybe on a friend or your social networks to either guide you in the right direction or even provide resources for you in some way. Or it could be, if it's a psychological thing and it's more about healing and transforming on that level, it could be more like that. And so it could be that your friends, your group associations, the people that you surround yourself with by choice, you need to take action on something in order to maybe allow them to help you. There's an opportunity there. This would actually be a really great time to initiate some sort of group therapy or group counseling, something where you're doing healing work, especially that psychological type of healing within a group of, people that are supportive. A lot of benefits can come from that. It might feel very uncomfortable and it might be very disruptive at the beginning, but especially into April, it's going to be like, wow, this is cultivating a lot of positive change in my life. So for Leo and for Leo rising, the winter solstice energy is actually happening in your 6th house, which is the house of health, work, and daily routines. And it's trining this moon energy in conjunction with Jupiter, which is still in retrograde at this period of time, in your 10th house, which is the house of career and public reputation. That makes this a perfect time for you to set intentions related to your career goals, your big picture plans, what it is that you want to do out in the world, what impact you want to make on the world around you at large. This is about the reputation that you leave behind after your working years and the reputation that you hold publicly, just kind of in general. And so thinking back and reflecting back on what went well for you in your work and with your career, where you met your goals, where you face challenges head on and were very successful, and where you maybe need to change things and, adjust moving forward into the year ahead. That's really what this energy is all about for you. So this is a time of reflection on what has worked in the past, especially in the last 12 months when it comes to your career, and what you need to do or change moving forward into the new year in order to have a much better, a lot of just better opportunities when it comes to your work. What do you want? What do you want to create? What do you want to change when it comes to your career, when it comes to your work, when it comes to your daily habits, when it comes to the way that you take what it is that you're passionate about and put it out into the world for public consumption? Look at that and start to not just seed intentions, but visualize it, right? Think about what it is that you want in the year ahead. And then coming into this Pluto energy, this is going to be an intense one. So for Leo and Leo rising people, Pluto is in your 7th house, which is the house of relationships. This is going to bring a lot of intensity. If your relationships are not loyal, if they're not running deep, if you don't have that deep emotional, psychological intimacy and connection, so not just a physical connection, but a deeper connection on all levels, then those relationships are going to go. This is going to be a big purge of all one-on-one connections that are not aligned with what you truly need, want, and desire in relationship. And that's really what this is going to be about. What do you desire when it comes to your connections? What do you desire when it comes to your relationships? And how can you manifest that better moving forward? There's going to be a sense of urgency around changing or transforming something in a relationship at the start of this year, but especially into February, where there could be a really big argument, dispute, disagreements. There could be a big blowout that happens. And, you do need to address this in some way. You do need to change or transform that relationship in some way. And so that's going to be a big part of what's coming up for you. The other thing that is happening, around this time is that relationships or power struggles or arguments or disputes or something somebody says to you in a relationship, like somebody close to you says something to you and it just gets under your skin and it prevents you from changing what you need to change in the way that you need to change it when it comes to your career. So we just talked about setting these big career goals and plans. This is the first test where are you going to let somebody's naysaying, somebody's opinion get in the way of accomplishing what you want to accomplish, or are you going to use that as fuel for the fire? The other thing is that there could be, arguments, disputes, disagreements, and power struggles that are career related or business related that could impact your ability to manifest what you want to manifest and create what you want to create. And so, that could be part of this as well. Definitely obsessing over relationships could cause you to blow things out of proportion. So just kind of keep that in mind as we come into this period here in February. And just know that if your relationships are solid, you don't have to worry so much about this Pluto transit. This is just going to be a deepening of intimacy and partnership with somebody. And so if you have a really solid, really beautiful marriage, if you are deeply in love, if you are deeply connected, this is really just going to be, empowering you as a couple to, go even deeper. So don't worry too much about this. For good relationships, this is going to be a beautiful energy, a transformative energy in a positive way. But if you are in a relationship that's toxic and you're holding on to it for dear life because it's comfortable or you have grown attached to this person even though you know it's bad for you, this is going to be your wake-up call in February. And then moving on to a little bit later in this time frame here, so more like March, we have Mars coming into a square with Jupiter at the end of February, and then in March it comes into a square with Uranus. So again, there's all of this is pointing at your 10th house. There's something going on here where your relationships are impacting your work. And, there's something that it could be that you want to jump into a new work-related partnership. You want to sign a contract. You want to sign on the dotted line and you feel like you have to do it now and you have to change it now. And there's just this sense of urgency. If that's the case, that's okay. You definitely need to do something, but just make sure that you're not overdoing it or blowing it out of proportion. And also know that whatever it is that you're getting into contractually in business, that the outcomes are not going to be what you expect them to be. They'll be good overall in the end, but there's going to be some disruption and some discord getting there. And the outcomes are not going to be exactly what you intend because of that Uranus energy in the 10th house as well. All right, for Virgo and for Virgo rising. So for Virgo, this energy is happening in your 5th house for the winter solstice, and it's trining up to your 9th. This is a beautiful time to set intentions, to learn more about what it is that you truly love. What are you deeply passionate about? What lights you up? What do you do for fun because it's pleasurable and just because you enjoy it? Do more of that this year. Set intentions and goals to do more of that this year. If you have been kind of neglecting yourself and your own self-care and your own joy, now is the time for you to dive in and experience more of that. So start visualizing what you want your future to look like, And this is also a really great time to set intentions for higher educational pursuits. So if you want to learn something that is really connected with your passions and with the things that you love, now is a time when you can absolutely start seeding that intention. Don't necessarily jump in right away. Wait until the new year starts going a little bit. But like at this time, it's a really, really beautiful time and perfect time to plant that seeds and nurture those ideas. This is also a really great time to think about where you want to travel to in the year ahead if you do want to travel. This is a great year for unexpected travel opportunities to come up for you, especially in the springtime and early summer. So start writing down your dream list, your vision board, places that you want to go to in the year ahead. And then, looking at the Pluto energy here. So this is happening in your 6th house, which is the house of health, work, and daily routines. This is a time for you to transform your relationship with your body, to transform your health in some way. This could be brought on by some sort of health crises. So thinking back to, earlier this year, so May through June of this year, what was going on for you physically and what was going on for you psychologically when it comes to your work, especially. Those energies are going to come back around in a different way into especially February. That's when it's going to be super, super active, but it starts in January of this year. And so you're going to want to kind of like make note of that so you can mentally prepare for the intensity that's coming. It could feel like your day-to-day work experience and your day-to-day life, your day-to-day routines become just way more intense, way more psychologically and emotionally intense. You might be dealing with way more intensity on a day-to-day basis, especially into February. And especially if you are somebody who's working, there could be power struggles, arguments, and disputes with coworkers that could come around. And that could be a big issue. So you just want to plan lightly for that and try not to get into any unnecessary arguments. Try not to fixate on it if there is disruption with your work in that way. And this is also a time where it might just become very pressing for you to, just take care of your body. That might be coming up for you around this time as well. And if that is what's coming up, that's completely okay. I don't think this is anything super crazy or dire. That Jupiter energy in the mix, it does make you kind of mentally blow things out of proportion, but it also protects against the worst case scenario that you have like in your brain of what could be potentially be going on with you. There could also be intense issues around taking on a caregiver role with your family or, with somebody in your life in some way, especially if that's something that came up for you last year, that could be coming back around. So just kind of, make a mental note of that. But otherwise, this is a really great time for you to get really solid on what you truly need, want, and desire when it comes to your health and when it comes to your work. What do you want your day-to-day work experience to look like? You need deeper meaning in your work. You need deeper value in what it is that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. You can't just keep doing the surface level stuff. If you are doing a job that you hate, that is not making the impact that you want to make, this is going to really start weighing on you this year. And especially in February, you're going to feel like you need to maybe take action on something and change something really abruptly, around that. So you might need to start it, right? You might need to start making those changes. But this isn't like a short-term transit. This is like a short-term activation of a long-term transit. So it's not going to happen all at once. There's a deeper transformation needed before you can really, move into what it is that you're meant to move into here. And then looking at the Mars square to Uranus, this is interesting. So there could be like a sense of urgency around changing something when it comes to your work that stems from, what happened a little bit earlier on just a few weeks ago with that Pluto energy where it's like, I can't take this anymore. This is not what my soul wants. This is not what I need to be doing. And, if that is the case, then you're going to be feeling antsy. You're going to be feeling like you need to change something, and you do. The changes that you make to your day-to-day life and especially your work, those need to be more in alignment with your integrity, your beliefs, your value systems, your philosophical and religious ideologies. You need to align with your integrity, and there could be a very quick thing that you could do to change that and, make things better for yourself moving forward. For Libra and for Libra rising. So for Libra, the winter solstice energy is actually happening in your 4th house, which is the house of home, family, property, and real estate. And it's trining Jupiter in your 8th. If you are looking to get money for, buying a home or some sort of property investment, or if you're looking to cash out on a property investment or sell your home, this is a great time to visualize that and to start kind of putting it in motion energetically around the time of the winter solstice. This is also a really important time for seeding intentions involving resources, and especially resources that benefit you and your family, and especially looking at investments, looking at things like insurance and homeowners insurance, life insurance policies, your will, or living trust, or whatever it is that you have. All of these things are very important for you to kind of think about, start wrapping your head around, and setting in motion. Make sure you have all of your ducks in a row there, because unexpected opportunities can come through insurance payouts and stuff this year if you have everything set up appropriately. And then coming into the Pluto energy, this is in your 5th house. So this is one of the better energies for Pluto for all of the zodiac signs, especially if you are a Libra rising. I love, love, love this, because this is about you getting so deeply in touch with what you love, what you desire. And really, this is about transforming who you are to align yourself more with the things that bring you joy. I love this energy as well. This could also be, there could be some intensity, especially if you're somebody who has children. This could be, some intense situations coming up around children or child care, power struggles involving children. All of those things are possible, but for the most part, because this is in such a nice alignment with your ascendant, sun, or moon, this is more about getting in touch with your the things that you love and bringing it more into the forefront of who you are and the way that you engage with the world, making it a bigger theme in your life. And also, this is a really great time for deepening intimacy in relationships, especially when it comes to romance and sexuality. And so especially in February, there could be this urge to kind of take things to the next level in an important relationship, or a new relationship could come up even, and it could be something that runs really deep, and you could have a very intense physical connection and a very intense emotional, psychological, and energetic connection with this person, if that is the case. And then finally, we have this energy here of what are we looking at? Mars, which is squaring Uranus. And so this is kind of disruptive. So if there were power struggles going on involving money, and especially involving children, then that's going to come back around, and you're going to need to take some very quick, decisive action. You're going to have to pivot. The outcome is not going to be exactly what you want it to be, but it's going to be what you need it to be. And it's going to be disruptive in the moment, but in the end, it's going to be for the best. The other thing that this could mean is, that there's a financial opportunity that you're really excited about that you need to take advantage of, but don't overdo it and don't put more money into it than you need to, because there's a tendency to overspend and overinvest at this time. For Scorpio and for Scorpio rising. So for Scorpio, this energy of the solstice is happening in your 3rd house, which is the house of communication. It's the house of community, siblings, extended family members, short distance travel, vehicles, certifications, and more basic educational pursuits. So many things happen in the 3rd house. The 3rd house does not get enough attention, in my opinion, because it impacts everything. And so this is a really great time, especially because this is in trine with Jupiter and with the moon, for you to set really solid intentions around your relationships. If you want to grow your relationship in a positive way, if you want to do something in partnership together, if you want to start a new relationship, call that in, visualize it, think about what you want that to look like, because it's possible this year, especially if you get it in before Jupiter leaves Taurus. It's going to be a beautiful, beneficial partnership. This is a really great time to set intentions for improving communication in relationships, and not just relationships your romantic relationships, but even relationships with your siblings, with your family members, especially your extended family, or relationships with people in your community. So developing a greater community connection. With this energy of Pluto, this is all centering around your 4th house. So there's a lot of intensity coming up potentially involving your home, family, real estate. If there's anything, like any skeletons in the closet when it comes to your family, this is the time where those skeletons could just become very out in the open. This is an energy where, something that's been hidden, that's been kept deep, something that's very toxic could be exposed, could come out. You'd have to deal with it. And that could involve very literally your family and some family secrets. This could also be a lot of intensity around like arguments, disputes, and power struggles in the home or with your family, especially because this could be squaring your ascendant sun or moon, especially if this is a Scorpio rising chart and you have an early degree Scorpio. Just be prepared that you're going to be getting into it with some people potentially, and it's not going to be nice. Like, it's not like this is a light argument. It's kind of like one of those arguments where the other person says something that they regret, or you're going to say something that you regret. This is one of those arguments where the words cut really deep if that does come up. So try your best to be tactful. Don't engage if you don't need to engage, but there could be a need to engage, because really this is instigating this whole big period for many years where you're going to be getting in touch with what you truly need, want, and desire when it comes to your family connections or your living situation. There could be something that comes up really abruptly that's very psychologically or emotionally intense that involves your place of living. And it's kind of like, I don't want this anymore. This is toxic. I need to move on. And this is really not just about cutting out things that are toxic and dealing with intensity. This is about getting really honest with yourself about what you truly desire when it comes to your living situation. Where do you want to live? Who do you want to live with? What do you want that to look like? Where is this not working for you anymore? Those are all questions that are very likely to come up around this time. And then finally, Mars is going to be squaring Uranus. So we have this beautiful energy of relationships and setting good intentions for changes that are positive in relationships just a couple months prior. But in March, this is where, you really have to take action on something. It could have to do with like those power struggles, those issues that came up, but really this is about making a very abrupt, dramatic change when it comes to an important relationship or an important contract. But the relationship is probably going to be a family relationship. So potentially your relationship with your parents or your family that you've created, something along those lines could potentially come up. But even though it feels uncomfortable in the moment and words might be exchanged and things might be a little dicey, this is going to be ultimately for the better, as long as you don't overdo it and change it too quickly or too much, or, again, say something that you might regret that could cause some issues. But for the most part, this is kind of like something comes up, it causes friction, it doesn't feel good in the moment, but you need to change it. And once you do, very shortly after that, things get a lot better for you in your relationships, in your home life, in your family connections, whatever it is for you. And then for Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. So for Sagittarius, this is happening in your second house, this winter solstice energy. And this is actually trining the moon and Jupiter in your sixth. This is a really great time for you to set intentions involving money, yes, but especially your physical health and physical body. What do you want your health to look like in 2024? This is a time to visualize that. Don't just think about it, but see the intentions through your energy and through, really putting it out there in that way. This is also a really good time to, set intentions for work, and especially big projects that you want to do in your work. What do you want your work life to look like on a day-to-day basis moving forward after this time period? These are all questions that you should be asking yourself. And then this energy with Pluto, this is happening in your third house, which is the house of a lot of different things. Short distance travel, it's siblings, extended family members. It's the house of communication and community. It's the house of, connections with people in your immediate environment. And you could actually have some really deep, really interesting connections with people in your community or with your neighbors around this time. Something I should say, or I would say about this is your day-to-day routine communications that you have with, like, the person at the grocery store, your neighbor, your community members, your siblings, whatever it is. You're not going to want those to be surface level. So you're not going to be able to deal with small talk around this time. Even if you're already not somebody who likes small talk, this is going to like amplify that tenfold. Like you're just not going to be there for it. You're not going to have time for it. You want something deeper. You want deeper connection. You want to have real conversations with people. And so that's going to be a big thing. This is also a really beautiful time for you to dive deeper into something that you want to learn about, especially if it's like a more practical skill. That's something that could come up for you right now. And this is really about deepening communication and relationships overall because of the way this is trining your descendant, especially if you're a Scorpio or a Sagittarius rising. And so, really honing in on your relationships, your partnerships, and your communication, and going a little deeper, increasing or deepening your intimacy in your connections with others. Finally, there is a disruption going on. There could be a disruptive communication that comes in and shakes things up for you when it comes to your work, your health, or your daily routines. It's okay. It's going to feel uncomfortable in the moment, but you're going to know that this is ultimately for the better. And once things level out and settle down, you're going to be, I think, pretty happy with the results of the disruption. And so, stick it out, see it through, and make that change, but don't overdo it on a day-to-day basis. So this is also an energy where you could get pretty burnt out around this time, like at the start of March. Make sure that you're taking time to rest and replenish and just give yourself some downtime, because this is very much an energy of potentially overdoing it. This would be a really great time for you to, change something involving your health if that's what's needed. It's kind of like something comes up really abruptly, you get new information, and all of a sudden you want to like do this new exercise routine, you want to do this new diet, you want to take better care of yourself, whatever it is. That's actually okay. Just make sure that, again, that you're not going too crazy with it, you're not overdoing it in some way, because that's not going to be sustainable, and there is this tendency here to like overdo things. And then for Capricorn and for Capricorn rising. So this energy for the solstice is happening, of course, in your sign, as it does every single year. And it's trining Jupiter and the moon in your 5th house, which is the house of love and romance and fun and play. And so anything that you want to do because you love to do it in the coming year, think about that, ponder it, visualize it, seed those intentions, because you have the green light to make it happen. This is going to be all about trying new things that are really exciting and different, that are connected with your heart. This could also be an energy of really seeding intentions around romance and around relationships in general, but especially like romantic partnerships. And this could be a really great time to, visualize what you want when it comes to your children, if you have any. Or if you don't have any and you want children, this would be a really great time to visualize something around that and to kind of, set that in motion energetically as well. And then for the Pluto energy, this is going to be a lot of intensity around money. And so this is really about getting yourself in alignment with what you truly need, want, and desire financially. So what are your financial goals and why? That's a big question. Are your goals aligned with what you truly need on the inside? Also, this could bring up like power struggles and difficulties and issues involving money and finances, especially into February. There could be arguments, disputes, messages that come through that are not so friendly, that could cause a lot of psychological and emotional intensity around your resources. This is going to help you to cut out toxic habits and toxic situations financially. And so this is really about you getting clear on your spending habits. You're only going to be able to spend money on the things that you truly need and truly desire with Pluto in the 2nd house, not necessarily because you don't have money. This is actually a powerful energy for drawing in money, especially over time. And especially when there's activations like this, there could be a very sudden, financial windfall that comes in that, comes out of nowhere that you weren't expecting. And you could blow it all on gambling with that, with that square to the 5th house. But this could also be like something that comes up really abruptly in the opposite direction that makes you realize that your relationship with your material possessions is a little bit toxic or a little bit maligned. And so you have to change it in some way. You have to transform it in some way. So this is about getting in touch with what you truly desire financially. And then there could be a little bit of a disruption. So if you do make a big purchase, or spend money on something that you truly like desire, that you want, that's really fun, or gamble it away, you'll see the repercussions pretty quickly. But there's also a need here to change or disrupt something involving your financial situation in order to be able to enjoy yourself a little bit more. So there's going to be something that comes up rather abruptly, involving potentially money or your material possessions, that causes you to shift or change something when it comes to your children, if you have any children, when it comes to your business, if you run a business, when it comes to the way that you go out and enjoy yourself. So maybe, so an opportunity comes up to like have a night on the town or do something really fun, or maybe, you spent all your money and so you have to change the way that you go about doing those types of things. And so that could be a potential for Capricorn as well, depending on how you handle the Pluto energy. And then for Aquarius and Aquarius rising. So for Aquarius, this energy of the solstice, this is happening in your 12th house, which it always is every year. It's a big cosmic reset for Aquarius. But this is trining Jupiter and the moon in your 4th house. So this is a really beautiful time for you to turn inward, to spend some time in solitude, seclusion, contemplation, meditation, and to really visualize what you want when it comes to your family, when it comes to your place of living, your property. That could be part of this as well. And so this is a really great time for you to get clear on that and to visualize it. So maybe you want to move somewhere different. Maybe you want to completely change where you're living. Maybe you want to live in a different country. Maybe you want to renovate your home. Maybe you want to buy a home. What is it that you desire when it comes to your home life? And what is it that you desire when it comes to your family life? Maybe you want to improve your family relationships in some way. Maybe you want to expand on your family, which could happen very unexpectedly in a happy way for you this year. If that's something you want, start putting that energy out there, because it is a potential in the year ahead, and especially in the next few months ahead. This is also going to be a little bit of a disruptive energy coming through in a couple of different ways. So Pluto is entering your sign. You already had a taste of this back in May through June. So think back to that time period and what came up for you then. And, this is something that could come back around in a different way or in a bigger way. So you want to kind of pay attention to that. This is really about you getting in touch with who you truly are at a core level. Anything that you've been doing, anyone that you've been pretending to be that you are not, that is going to come up, that is going to be exposed, and you're not going to be able to tolerate it anymore. So you're only going to be able to, be in alignment with who you are, but you first have to figure out who the heck you are. This is going to be a big, deep soul searching opportunity for you, where you're going to be forced to get clear on, who, not only just who you are and what your identity is, but what you came here to do, what you came here to accomplish, who you want to be out in the world. This is a very empowering transit as well. This could also be a very regenerative energy on the ascendant for the body. And so if you are, somebody who has health issues, this could be a time where you could get very focused and very clear on what it is that you need to do in order to transform your body. And doing it mentally first is going to be very, very powerful for you with that Pluto transiting the ascendant. Really anything that you really, really want, that you truly desire at a core level, you're going to be able to draw it in. And what you don't want, you're going to push away. It's kind of like this repelling energy. So Pluto, it's like a magnet. So it's either you have, those two sides, the opposite polarities, and they snack together, or you have the same polarity and they just shoot apart. That's what Pluto does. So the things that it draws in that kind of smacks together are the things that on this deeper level your soul craves. It's not like, I think I want $1 million. It's like, no, what does your soul actually want on this truest, deepest level? Is it actually $1 million? Maybe. Or is it like that security that all of that money brings, the freedom, the power? What is it that you want, right? What is it that your soul truly wants? It's probably not that $1 million. It's probably something more just deeper than that, right? Or maybe it's not, it depends. So it's about getting clear on things like that, not just like $1 million, but like anything that you think that you want. Like, do you just think that you want it, or is that what's the deeper layer? What is the deeper reasoning behind your brain thinking that you want that thing? That's what you get to draw in. Not necessarily the thing, but like the deeper reasoning behind it, which is usually like some sort of feeling or sensation or a psychological state. And so, anyway, I went on a tangent about Pluto transits. That's relevant to you at least. But with Mars in the mix, this is like a sense of urgency around something. This could also be just a lot of really intense situations coming up. You're going to be feeling very like just you have to do something. You're going to be feeling obsessive over the actions that you feel like you need to take around this time, especially in February. And as we go into March, there's a disruption going on. So maybe that, new home that you called in comes up, and it comes up quickly. Maybe that new situation with your family that you were drawing in at the start of the year comes up and comes up quickly. There's something you have to take action on that's going to change your foundation. That's going to change your connection with your family, your connection with your home, your connection with your property, your connection with your roots. And it's going to change it in a way that's disruptive, uncomfortable, but ultimately for the better. Then for Pisces and for Pisces rising. So for Pisces, this energy here of the solstice, this is really nice for you because it's in your 11th and in your 3rd house. It's going to be, making this grand trine with your descendant if you are, a Pisces rising. And even if you're not a Pisces rising, this is making positive aspects with your ascendant, sun, or moon through sextiles. Regardless of what's going on, it's going to be good for you. This is a really powerful energy for calling in what you want in all areas of relationship, connection, and communication. Think deeply about that. Where did that go wrong for you last year? Where did it go right? What do you want more of? What do you want less of? And how can you envision a much better future for yourself with all the right connections, with all the right people, with really like beautiful relationships? How can you create better opportunities through your relationships? All of these things are beautiful things to focus your attention and intentions on around the time of the solstice. And Pluto in the mix is going to be in your 12th house. So this is going to be something that's going to be less external typically. This is going to be more like a deep soul searching and a lot of endings, a lot of purging things that no longer serve you. It is the house of endings after all. So this is a time to journey, to go deep, to get a much deeper understanding of yourself subconsciously or unconsciously. Sometimes with this energy, it's up to you whether you frame it this way or not. But sometimes you'll have experiences from like past lives or from maybe other dimensional realities. So, from dreams or from, something that you're picking up on that kind of worm their way into the present moment where you're unconsciously feeling this like fear or dealing with this like traumatic experience that you didn't actually have in this lifetime. And so this could be a really great time for like a past life regression, to do some sort of deep healing work of some kind. I really love this this transit for that. But overall, it's not going to be felt very external until we get into the Mars square to Uranus, where that's going to be, and this is actually, by the way, there's something going on unconsciously that you need to communicate consciously, like something that's going on behind the scenes or beneath the surface that you need to actually like communicate and put out there as a bigger idea. That's part of this, especially February energy too. But with the March energy and the Mars square to Uranus, this is really something's going on behind the scenes that is disruptive to your life. So thinking back first off to that period in November where we had Mars opposing Uranus in your 3rd and 9th house, think about what changed and what shook up, especially in the area of your mental state, your beliefs, your ideas, travel, vehicles, those types of things, higher education. Think back to that period because that's going to come back around in March, but also there's something new in the mix. So there's a new challenge that's coming from behind the scenes. It could be that subconsciously you are preventing yourself from doing something, or subconsciously you're disrupting something. But usually when I see this with like clients in real life, there's somebody working against you behind the scenes. And, you know, it's like a hidden enemy type of situation. And so that could come out, and that could cause you to have to shift or change something in a big way, to change your mindset around something, to shift or change something in an important relationship. If that is the case, that'll come very easily to you. It's going to feel uncomfortable for a moment, but overall, it's going to be a positive thing. And that is the energy for Pisces. All right, so I know that was a long one. Thank you so much for sticking with me through all of it. And so, you know, for the next forecast, if we do this, if you like it, comment below and let me know, you know, how you felt about this format and this extended forecast. And, you know, if you guys are really into it, of course, we'll do it again. If you're not, maybe not. But if we do it again, then next quarter is going to be the big one. We are entering into the eclipse season for the start of the year. We're going to have, first off, in March, a penumbral lunar eclipse in the sign of Libra at 5 degrees. This is going to be a pretty big, really powerful energy. Even though it's a penumbral eclipse, there's going to be some shakeups coming from that, but really the biggest eclipse is actually going to be the one that happens in April. So on April 8th of 2024, we have a total solar eclipse in the sign of Aries at 19 degrees. This is a huge energy, you guys. So if you remember the eclipse, especially if you're in the United States, that happened in October, that actually like cut across the United States, it was visible here. This is actually cutting across the United States in a completely different direction. So when it comes to world events, things are going to be heating up, things are going to be intensifying. And when it comes to our own lives, like this is a very powerful energy. So if that first eclipse did something and created a big change, this is going to be the next phase, the next saga of that eclipse cycle. And so, you know, definitely plan lightly and be prepared for a lot of transformation around this time period and a lot of disruption, both personally and probably interpersonally and globally around this time. It's not the nicest of energies. It is kind of intense, and it is going to be an eclipse conjunct Chiron. And so on an individual level, it's going to be bringing up a lot of our wounds, vulnerabilities, insecurities, and it's also going to promote a lot of really powerful healing. There could be a lot of stuff coming up around health and healing in general, kind of on a global scale, big new developments in those areas. But, you know, for the most part, on an individual level, this is going to be about doing our inner work. This is going to be bringing up something from the past that feels uncomfortable that we're going to have to revisit and deal with in a new way, so that way we can move forward into something. And this, for some people, this is going to be moving forward into becoming a healer of some kind. And so we'll talk about that when we get into the forecast for all 12 signs for that. And then we're going to be getting into that Uranus-Jupiter conjunction. That is a big shakeup energy. But again, it's, I think, more positive shakeup energy. This is going to feel like freedom, and it's going to cause us to crave greater freedom. It's like we cannot deal with any restrictions or restraints, especially when it comes to the physical and tangible. We're not going to let our financial situation, our real life, circumstances hold us down. We're going to break free. We're going to create new opportunities. We're going to go big. And so I like that energy a lot. And there's a really beautiful sextile with Neptune going on with that too. So it is about taking our imagination and translating that into some big physical, tangible change. I really do like this Jupiter-Uranus energy. I think it's going to be very positive, and it's going to stimulate a lot of really beautiful potentials globally and individually, which we'll talk about when we get into that forecast next, or in a couple of months here. And so again, if you enjoyed this forecast, if you want to learn more about what's coming up, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss an important astrology update. I post a new video every single Saturday at 9 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, so you don't want to miss that. And thank you again so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.